So here we go. It is April the 1st. No April Fools. This was the last day for bills being signed into law by Governor Bob Ferguson. He signed the capital budget, he signed the operating budget with a big chunk of spending for new affordable housing. There was much ado made about that. State subsidized housing, that is. But he vetoed a section for funding a crackdown on organized retail crime. If you've left your house, unless you order groceries that come to your front door, you no doubt have, seen the organized shoplifting effort that's going on. A lot of it is fueled by the drug crisis here, and you get folks that are, paid to go in and steal off high value items. A lot of them now behind lock cages in our stores. Can't even, buy cold medicine or baby formula without, having to get that from a locked cage. And that's because these retailers have been really decimated by these organized retail operations. But this veto kind of came as a last surprise. And from what Representative Mari Levitt posted on X, she kind of just found out about this, I guess, yesterday and was urging the governor not to do it. Here's part of what she posted. She said, thank you to a broad coalition of partners who've heard the alarm in action by sending a letter to the governor to preserve the ORC, that's organized retail crime funding. This list includes Washington Hospitality, Retail, Tacoma Pierce County Chamber, Washington Build Black Alliance, and a series of others. She said the governor is heard if he vetoes after knowing the concerns in advance. Then that's on the governor, and his office will own it. Now, as I mentioned, she's more of a moderate Democrat, often is one of just a handful of Democrats to split off from their own party on some of these issues. So, making no secret of how displeased she is, we have every intention of following up with her in the days to come, as well as some of these organizations who are going, wait a minute, we got to do something. And after today's bill signing, Governor Ferguson was asked about the veto. He started by saying that, as AG, I was the one that created the organized retail crime task force, and we've done more. We would put more resources into this, and more cases and charges are getting brought against organized retail crime players because of what I've done. But then he finished by saying, we had to balance the budget, and this is just one of those things that had to go, and so that's the breaks, basically, is what he had to say. So, again, we're going to be following up on that in the days to come. The first bill that he signed today, though, was Senate Bill 5974. This is the bill that will require county sheriffs and police chiefs to meet new eligibility requirements, which include having at least 5 years of full time law enforcement experience and not having done or said anything that could get state certification revoked by the Criminal Justice Training Commission. And the commission can revoke basically for misconduct, leading to elective sheriffs to be removed from office. And there is, according to opponents, way too much wiggle room in here to give the Criminal Justice Training Commission, all appointed members, not elected members, many of them appointed directly by the governor, give them power, wide power, to decertify a sheriff, say they don't like that sheriff's politics. And that could be the motivation for this. Um, there may well be some legal challenges coming. Now, lawmakers did end up amending that bill right before final passage to say that the 5 years of law enforcement experience provision doesn't apply to current sheriffs. That allowed a carve out for Pierce County Sheriff Daniel Garcia, who would not have, be able to keep his seat because of not having enough prior law enforcement experience. And it also created a carve out for King County Sheriff Patty Cole Tyndall. She would have been decertified, but for an amendment to exempt her from the bill's required 5 years of consecutive commissioned law enforcement service. Now, a group of sheriffs had asked the governor to make some significant changes to the bill. And during the signing today, the governor said, I'm not going to veto anything here in this bill, which is what the sheriffs wanted him to do, but I do have some concerns and there'll be some work to do on this in the interim, although he did not get into specifics. Here's Governor Ferguson on Senate Bill 5974, just ahead of signing that legislation today.
Sheriffs and police chiefs should be held to the same standards as their own officers and deputies. They should be certified and have law enforcement experience, pass a background check, and have a clean criminal history. Senate Bill 5974 modernizes Washington law governing sheriffs, police chiefs, and town marshals by setting these minimum qualifications. The Tri City Herald editorial board said law enforcement officers up and down the ranks must have the public's trust to do their job. Senate Bill 5974 will bolster that trust, and I agree with that. Under this bill, sheriffs and police chiefs who are decertified are removed from office. I do have some reservations about the process for creating a vacancy. I've had good conversations with the sponsor and other legislators as well about that, and we'll probably be doing a little work on the interim. But the main message today is this is a great bill.
Now, after the bill signings were complete, the governor did come over to a few of us reporters who were there in the room. And the first reporter, pressed him for some specifics on what kind of reservations you're having about the legislation. And he said it was really about the process for creating a vacancy, as you saw in that clip from the governor. But he didn't get into specifics. So, does he have a problem with, the Criminal Justice Training Commission having that much power? Does he have a problem with once they've, decertified somebody from office, are they going to be the ones to appoint somebody new, or do voters then get to elect a new sheriff? There's a lot of questions here. No specifics from the governor, though he was pressed by one reporter 3 separate times on this today. And he just said, it's something we're going to be working on. Now, we've spoken a couple of times with Mason County Sheriff Ryan Spurling. He was one of the sheriffs that signed on to that letter asking the governor to veto certain sections.
It seems like it's more along the lines right now. Some of that impetus is they want to control what sheriffs say. And this is one of those wrestling match because I hear politicians say things that aren't necessarily true all the time, yet they're not necessarily held accountable. But sheriffs are in a different category according to a lot of people. So that's one of those things that they're wrestling through. Should sheriffs be political? Should we be able to say, or should it be controlled? And this bill effectively will mute sheriffs because of the threat of being decertified and removed by the way the RCW is written in the decertification portion, not necessarily in this bill, but in the decertification.
Again, no section veto on the bill. It was signed in its entirety, although the governor said he's got some reservations and we'll have to work with stakeholders in the interim, but it's a done deal at this point. Well, there may also be some legal challenges coming. And there is a gentleman running for sheriff in Kitsap County who, at this point, wouldn't be able to run, even though he has many, many years of decorated military service and is currently a King County sheriff's deputy. He doesn't have enough under this bill to qualify to even run, even though he's got his name out there. He's been campaigning, and he told me recently, I'm keeping my campaign going. I'm hoping that, somebody's gonna step up with a legal challenge and that, I can hopefully still get elected and serve as the elected sheriff in Kitsap County. So this is, far from a done deal on this.